Hey, good morning, everyone. Or I guess it's technically afternoon now. I'm Nadri Paducki. I have been an agent since 2018. I absolutely love my job. I love what I do. I'm meeting some awesome financial goals and setting my sights higher every single year. I'm not one of those agents that kind of like came out of the box on fire. Not a Paulina. She's awesome. But we have slowly built our business and we're having a really good time doing it. And I love what I do. So I'm really excited to be going through the listing presentation with you guys. And for those of you who are on like right at the beginning, I will tell you how my business differs a little bit and how I run things a little bit differently. Please don't hesitate to let me know if you have questions. I'm going to try to watch everything, but this is definitely the first time I've hosted a Zoom meeting. I've attended, but not hosted. So let me know, like wave or set something on fire if I'm not getting to a question that you guys want. And in fact, let me open the chat a little bit. So hopefully, okay. So we've got one person there. All right. I'm a mom of 5. I've got, and I live in Ozark, lived in this area most of my life. And again, love my job. So we're gonna jump right into it and talk about seller listing appointments. They can be a lot of fun. It's a great opportunity to build rapport. It's also a very intimate thing, going into somebody's house and telling them, here's how you need to, here's how your house isn't right for selling. Obviously, we're not going to phrase it that way, but you do end up in some sticky kind of situations, and we're going to go through those and then go through the structure of the listing appointment and just kind of talk about everything. So real quick before I get started, are there any specific burning questions that you guys want to make sure that I address here in this specifically? Nope. Okay, give it a Zoom second. All right, so obviously we want to work on growing your business. Advancing. Can everybody see the slides? I hope so. Okay. So we're working on making seller presentations and getting listings. Obviously, as a part of the Ignite program, we're not going to do it here, but script practice is expected. Calling your 10 leads a day is expected. So make sure you're staying on top of that, because that really and genuinely is how you build your business. Last year, about 80% of our business was either direct referrals from Sphere or direct or returning clients. We had several returning clients last year, and which that I'm super proud of, because if our clients are coming back, that means they were really happy with their service the first time around. And we aim to work hard and go above and beyond for every single client. So looking at before the listing appointment, I apologize. I have gone through these. I just want to make sure that I'm making all the points that they want us to do today. We're going to look at what sellers want, what kind of conversations you need to have with them, how to prepare for the appointment. So first and foremost, obviously sellers want to get out of their house for some reason. They usually have a problem that we need to solve. So, and my goal is to be a problem solver for every single client. So typically they're not sure how to navigate if they've got one to sell and one to buy locally, or one to sell and one buy not locally. Helping them navigate that sort of financial bridge is huge. And I like to sort of have hand prepared options for every single seller. So again, having a good conversation ahead of time, making sure you're understanding their needs walking into the appointment. Now, they'll always throw you curveballs. There will always be things that you weren't expecting that will come up during the appointment. So that's where just sort of being prepared and being okay with saying, I don't have the answer to that question right now, but I'm going to help you find it. people respect that. People respect it when you just don't start spouting BS. They want to know that you're going to find the right answers and find them the right way. So, and then obviously running comparables. So you look at the house online. I usually look at it in the tax records, and then I also look at it online in the MLS and see what its listing history was, if there's anything significant that comes up. That way I'm kind of aware of the history of the house and what's gone on. And then hopefully, and looking at the old pictures will give you a sense of maybe what you're walking into, and hopefully they've told you, oh, we did new countertops, or we did this, or we did that. So you know what kind of updates you're looking at. So you can do a better job of finding comparables. So I usually walk in with at least 2 or 3 comparables that I think will be close to the value, but I actually tell people up front that I don't discuss, or I don't give them a firm recommended listing price until after I've seen the house and then looked at comps after I've seen the house again. Some houses are kind of a slam dunk if they're in a really sort of cookie cutter subdivision and there've been a lot sold. You do get slam dunks like that. But if not, then I really try to reserve just drilling down to a recommended price until after I've seen the house and looked at the comps. And I got that from Evan Deschong. I think people appreciate that you're putting a little extra thought into that. And it just makes sense because I've actually had people throw me curveballs, and we'll get there later. And you walk in thinking you're getting one thing, and then you find out there's something very different. So I usually come with a range in mind, but I make it a pretty broad range. And I say, here's this and this and why. Okay. So, and then we're going to go through the listing presentation today and then kind of discuss the flow of the listing appointment. Again, everyone should develop their own mojo. This is the Ignite program and the scripts that they have in the Ignite script book are a great starting point, but obviously put them in your heart, work on your own mojo, and figure out what feels right for you. Okay, so in terms of getting the listing appointment, again, it comes back to me. Sorry, I didn't advance the slide. It comes back to sphere and talking to people and getting in front of people and knowing people. And that definitely was something I was grateful for last year because I was able to get a lot of business without doing a lot of open houses. I think in 2020, I did maybe 2 or 3 open houses. And in 2021, I've done, again, maybe 2 or 3 open houses. My family was very concerned about COVID, and I remained very cautious. So I'm very happy that working my sphere has allowed my business to continue to grow. And most people take the first agent they talk to. I'll never forget, I had a listing appointment. It was with a gentleman that I met at an open house. And we had the appointment set for a couple days out. And that was just based on, I was available sooner, but the seller was not. And then the day before the appointment, I called to remind them. So call and remind your contacts that you're coming. Don't say, I wanted to confirm, because that gives them an opportunity to say no. And sometimes you want to allow them to say no to get that psychological control that they talk about in a lot of these classes. But when it comes to appointments, I would rather just say, hey, I just want to remind you, I'm going to be at your house tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And usually like, oh, okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot. See you then. Whereas if you say, hey, I just wanted to call and see if you're still okay with me coming over tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Well, that gives them a beautiful opening to be like, no, I forgot about my daughter's dance class. We better do that and this and reschedule for another time. So you always want to try to be the first one in the door, because I met this gentleman at an open house, scheduled a listing appointment, and then when I called to remind him of the listing appointment the day before, he said, oh, well, I signed with another agent yesterday. I met him yesterday and I signed with another agent. And I said, oh, do you mind if I ask who that was? And they said, Brian Stone. And I was like, well, Brian Stone's a great agent. You'll be in great hands with him. Good luck. I wish you all the best. And so I called Brian and I was like, what did I do wrong? You know, and he was like, I think I was just in the door first. So that's just how it goes. And I'm sure Brian did a great job taking care of that person. So work your sphere, talk to people, stay in front of people, stay top of mind with them, and you're going to get their business, or you're going to be a lot more likely to get their business. Any questions so far? Okay. Again, I'm not going to be the best at, okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to be the best at like watching for questions and stuff. So please scream at me if you want to get a word in edgewise. So moving on to the next one, we're looking at what sellers want. What do they want? They want help selling their home, marketing their home. They just want to get the house sold. But this kind of gives you a sense of what people look at. Ultimately, they want the best price. And I have turned down listings for people that had unreasonable pricing expectations. Not just one, just one. And I did try the, you know, what if we listed at your price for a while and for say 2 weeks, and then we reevaluate. Usually when they come in a little high, that's my go-to. And I did try that, but they weren't interested. He wanted his price or nothing else. And I don't think that house sold. So there you go. So just walking through the whole listing process. So they've got the pre-listing questionnaire up here. That's your conversation that you're having with them when you talk to them. If you have a questionnaire to fill out, that's great. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any gaps. Or it may just be a more casual conversation because I call you when you're driving. Just kind of keep in mind any information that you have or that you can get. Okay, I'm just double checking, looking for questions. So any information that you can get is great, but know that you've got that listing appointment to continue to build rapport. Sending the pre-listing packet. I think that's a great thing to do. But again, if you're trying to get in there super fast and be in there the first person in the door, there may not physically be time for a pre-listing packet. I think it's a great tool, and in a slower market, I could see it being a lot more useful. I took another course, a non-KW course called Ninja. And Ninja Selling is a great program if anybody ever has the opportunity to do it. It is well worth it, but it's not a ton different from what we're teaching you in Bold. It's all about working your sphere, staying in contact with people, top of mind, having a disciplined approach to your lead generation. So pre-listing packets are great. In this market, they're not as practical simply because we just have to move so quickly and listings move so quickly. But then you want to set up your listing presentation in Command and give them to them. I did use the listing packet in the past, and it's good. It's a nice presentation. We kind of have our own. So we give all of our clients, we have seller versions and we have buyer versions. And we're going to have to drop the realty here pretty soon. We're working on that. But we give everybody this nice folder, and it has our listing presentation in here. And then I have a folder for the market analysis. So this is where I'll put the comps and any other information I have on their neighborhood. Sometimes if I want a little bit more information about a house, I'll go use the RPR resource. The RPR resource is a great way to get some sort of conglomerated data presented quickly. And obviously I'm not going to go through how to use that in this class, but it is a great resource to sort of fill in market information for people, and it presents it in a very nice, concise, and readable way. And then I have a list of our favorite lenders. Often sellers need lenders, they need options. And we'll kind of talk about that as we dive into it a little bit more, about the different kind of lending options people can use to help get them out of one house and into another. So I always should give a list of my favorite lenders. And then in the back, I actually have all of the listing paperwork. And as we go through the listing presentation, I'll talk to you about what I do with that as well. So every single client gets one of these. I like it because it's a physical thing that I'm handing to them. And I'll have a couple business cards in here. I'm handing to them and I'm saying, here's what we give to all of our clients. So even before they've signed paperwork, I'm calling them my client. And it's sort of a nice physical memento, and it's pretty useful. I've had people, this was actually born out of one of my very first buyers, because she was kind of a scattered person, and she was keeping all of the MLS sheets of all the houses that we had seen, and she was seeing houses at a low price point. So we were seeing a lot of houses. She said to me one day, she's like, I wish I had a folder to keep all these papers straight. And I thought, okay, so that's where that started. Thank you, April. Because it's remained a staple in my business ever since. So that was from my first summer in real estate. Okay, so I think I skipped one, hang on. So we've kind of discussed preparation before the appointment. So I know in Spark, you guys talked about A, B, and C sellers. Is there anybody that would like to take a moment to kind of refresh everyone on what an A, B, and C seller is? Any volunteers? It's a quiet day. Okay.
I will, I guess.
Thank you, Joshua.
A seller is, we're moving forward, financing is good. Really, ducks are in a row and we're looking for houses. A B seller may be somebody who thinks that they're ready, but there may be something, maybe they think they can get too much for their house, or like there's just sort of something lingering where they're very close, but probably not ready to make an offer. And then a C being somebody who may want to make an offer in a month or 6 months, really very passive.
Yeah, that's great. And just to like briefly, they define it with like 14 days or less. That, they're basically ready to list 15 to 60 for B, and then C is 61 days or more. And I always still meet with people who are, even if they say I'm 6 months or a year out, I will absolutely go to your house and absolutely give you my presentation, because you might be able to answer some questions for them, or you might be able to clarify something for them that suddenly makes them realize that this is much more doable than they think. And so then you might turn someone who's 6 months to a year out into somebody who's ready to go as soon as they finish painting the bedrooms.
What do you classify somebody who's particular? Like, let's say, for instance, if somebody wanted 3 acres and a mid-century home, like you're going to be sitting on your thumb for a while, but what would you, but they are ready to make an offer?
I would say, I would probably, if they're motivated and ready to go, and if their house is ready to list, I would probably call them an A, just because what they want is out there, or is there's not a lot of what they want. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't move right away if they could. So I would definitely put that person in an A category, and then make sure that they have their financial ducks in a row and say, okay, so your house is ready to go. Are you going to need a loan to buy the next house? Do you have to sell this house to buy the next house? I love it when they don't, but that's rare. So make sure that if they're going to need a lender, make sure they've talked to a lender and know exactly what their options are. Bridge loans, people don't love them, but they are an option. I had one seller, I've only had one seller use a bridge loan at all. And it was an older couple, their house was paid off. They wanted to buy the new house, move, and then and then sell the old house, which is ideal, especially like for older people or people who have, I don't know, weird situations or lots of pets, or, just a situation where it's going to be hard to make the house seller ready. Or I have a gentleman who's been in my pipeline for a long time. God bless him. He's super picky on what he wants. His house is paid for, but we could get his house under contract in a heartbeat because he's got a great little house with a really fancy shop. We all know how precious those things are. But he works really weird hours. So he sleeps from 4 p.m. until about 2 a.m. He's a truck driver. And then he starts driving in the middle of the night. So he has better traffic. And I'm like, that's going to make it really hard to show your house. So since he has the ability to buy a house with a loan or whatever, he's got a down payment, but to buy a house and then sell his house, I'm like, let's do this, Tim, because it's otherwise it's just going to be too hard to show your house, and it'll be too disruptive to him.
Sorry to cut in, but since the market is so fast, what about doing a client like that with an Airbnb as opposed to, because you may accrue $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in financing charges to do.
Yeah, that would be an option too. I don't see, because then you also have the question of where does their stuff go? So they could get a storage space. That's not a terrible idea, but this gentleman is so stinking picky. Like I send him houses, I probably send him 3 or 4 houses a month, and I've shown him 5 houses in 2 years. Like he just doesn't want to see much. And I don't even know at this point, I'm like, are you really that serious about selling, Tim? But he swears he wants to get out of his 2-level house into a single level house.
I guess I meant more like for the listing scenario, if he was under contract and then he obviously weird sleeping schedule, and to get him out of the house, if you're like, it's going to go under contract in a week.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, have him stay in an Airbnb while it's being sold. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good idea. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a great idea. And we may go there, but he doesn't want to sell until he's found one to buy. And that's been the hard part, is finding one that he's happy with at his price point. Because he's also tighter than the bark on a tree. So, which is why he has a fully paid off house. And, I respect that entirely. But he has a tricky scenario. So, okay. So before we get any further off track, any questions in terms of what we do to prepare before the appointment? Okay. So yeah, the point of sending the pre-listing packet is to sort of help prepare them mentally for what's coming, give them a better sense of what you guys are going to talk about at the listing appointment. But I'm going to just glaze over it because honestly, in this market, it's not the most useful thing. I personally feel the most important thing is getting in the door quickly and establishing that rapport and talking to them. So going through the listing presentation, you guys have that nice template. Let me check my notes on what I'm supposed to be talking about here. Hang on. But the goal is to, make sure that you are coming off as a professional, well-prepared, showing what you have behind you with the Keller Williams engine, showing them you've got, because you use KW numbers if you don't have a lot of numbers of your own. And so showing them that level of professionalism and what you've got going. I use the lighter colored one when I was doing this. I had it customized to our team. And I've actually thought about going back to using this one. It's a nice presentation. It's been a while since I've looked at it. So for the flow of the listing appointment, typically I like to step in the door, say, hey, nice to meet you, meet the kids and the dogs and the cats. When I'm telling people to prepare for a listing appointment, I always tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm a mom. I've got 5 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats. You'll get zero judgment from me. Don't worry about having the house perfectly clean or shiny. Just let me come see you and I'll help you figure out the best way to position yourself for selling. So walk in the door. I try really hard to know the names ahead of time if I can. If not, I try to remember everybody's name. That's honestly a really hard thing for me. I will remember faces for decades. Names go in one ear and out the other. So I have to mentally work really hard to cement somebody's name in my head. And that's just how I am. So know where your strengths and weaknesses are, make sure you're addressing those. So then I typically, once I'm in the door, I ask them, I say, okay, would you like to show me your house? Show me talk to me about the kind of upgrades that you've done. What have you done to fix up the house? In the Ignite packet, it talks about asking to go through the house alone. You know, say, oh, hey, you guys look at this paperwork while I go snoop through your house. I'm personally like, I think that's weird. If you can figure out a way to make that flow for you and, you know, like work that into your mojo, if that works for you, great. Go for it. Not my jam. Because it honestly, it gives you an opportunity to build more rapport as you're walking through the house. And I do this when I'm walking through the house with buyers too. Look at the stuff on the walls. Look at what's going on. Try to kind of get inside the head of the person that you're talking to, or in the case of a buyer, try to get inside of the seller's head. So that way you can hopefully not only engage with them, find ways to connect with them, but in the case of if you're serving a buyer looking at a seller's home, you might try to figure out the best, how this seller is motivated, what's motivating the seller, and make sure you're writing an offer that fits that. So, and I really do that very intently with buyers, not to get off topic, but we rarely write more than one contract for each buyer. So I'm very proud of the fact that we're very good at getting our buyers under contract. And a lot of it, I think, is because I just try really hard to figure out what the seller motivations are and make sure that our offer addresses the seller's motivations. So getting back on track, you're walking through the house, show me the updates that you've done, talk about this. Oh, tell me what you've done here. People are going to throw you curveballs. So I think this is kind of a good time for me to pull in my little slideshow and talk about the different things that you're going to encounter when you get into people's houses. Hopefully I can get this to work. All right, can you guys see that? So when you get into somebody's house and they've got a ton of pets, or you can really smell a strong pet odor, that is a challenging one to address, because when people have been living like that for a while, they don't necessarily realize what they're dealing with. So I try to address it. I'm a very direct person. I will say things like, my job is to tell you what you need to know, not to tell you what you want to hear. And I don't necessarily do that and say, and your house stinks. But there's the part where I say, my job is to tell you what you need to know, or not what you want to hear. And then later on, when we're talking about what they need to do to get their house ready, we'll say, now I do detect a little bit of a pet odor. Or I'll say, there was one person's house I went into, and the laundry room where their litter box was so bad, like I could barely breathe. I was choking. It was awful. Like eyes watering. So I said, the smell in the laundry room is very strong. We really need to address that. And here's what I think we should consider doing. And kind of, some people will roll with it and will be fine. And they'll probably realize, yeah, just if you stay respectful and honest and just come to them like, this is what we need to do to position your house for sale. If you are really genuine and honest and just come for, like, I'm just trying to help you out here, this is what needs to be done, most people are pretty receptive to it. Now, okay, well, and we'll get there in a second, but yeah, just be honest and calm and straightforward and just say, hey, I can really smell your dogs. I love dogs, got 4 of them myself. My house smells like dogs too. But I can definitely smell it in here. And here are the things that I think we need to do to try to address it to make it a little bit better so that it shows well for people who don't have dogs, who will really pick up on the smell. And if you ever want to talk about those things, I have a lot of opinions on what can be done. Feel free to contact me after this, and I'd be happy to talk you through some of the things that I suggest. And we also give all of our sellers a 1-page sheet that says, you know, sort of like, here's what you need to do to prep the list. And a lot of those things are kind of covered in that, on that sheet. Things like wiping windowsills because they harbor a lot of dirt. And I really feel like a lot of odor kind of gets trapped in dust. So just making sure people do deep cleaning, deep dusting, etc. It really drills down to the details. So that sheet's a great resource. And if you would like a copy of it, I'd be happy to email it to you. Just shoot me an email and I'll get it to you. Okay, so you walk in and someone has a large aquarium with a big snake or something that's really going to scare people, or like a lot of snakes, or just a really weird something. So obviously it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. And you're going to say, okay, well, you know, maybe is there any possibility Bobby the boa could go live somewhere else for a couple weeks while we're selling the house? Is that a possibility? You know, in the case of a large aquarium like this, it's going to be hard to move, change, relocate the animal. So then talk about maybe how to cover it with a you know, a sheet or something to make it look halfway decent, just kind of disguise what's behind there, just to not creep out people who are creeped out by snakes, or, you know, if you've got tarantulas or whatever unusual pets you might have, exotic pets, etc. So that's one thing you might encounter. The other thing, number one thing you're going to encounter are people who just have really messy houses. This is actually a listing, 2 listing photos from the same house for a house that just went under contract. I showed it on Monday, I think. And with the listing agent's permission, I show you these guys. This is literally, these pictures are better than how it was when we went and saw it. And what you can't really tell is like the floor is completely covered with thick dog hair. Like there's hair all throughout this house. It was insane. And I don't, like, I know dog hair is hard to keep up with, but it was bad. So this is where, you know, I talked to the listing agent when I set up the showing for this house, and we had a little laugh. I was like, I can see you did a really great job cleaning up for your pictures. And she was like, yeah, it just is what it is. And we had a little laugh about it. So, and the listing even said, you know, house will be professionally cleaned prior to closing, etc. So she knew what she was dealing with. So you are going to walk into people who are not ready. And again, that's kind of where that sheet comes in, and you can sit down and say to them, okay, so we need to get rid of all the clutter. You give them strategies like put things in a box. If you need to get ready quickly for a showing, pardon me, have a laundry basket ready, and you hear about the showing, throw everything in the laundry basket, put the laundry basket in your car and go. That's good for, like, especially where you got a situation where like a mom is staying home with little kids and it's hard to get the kids out of the house. I can't even imagine how hard it would be to try to sell a house with little bitty kids. It just sounds awful to me. So try to give them those kinds of strategies for how to keep the house show ready. But honestly, in this market, especially if it's a listing that I know is, I'm pretty confident will move quickly, I tell people, let's go live on a Thursday or a Friday and just plan on not being home that weekend. Go somewhere, go to grandma's house, go to Branson. I don't care. Just give me the house for the weekend and you'll come back to a contract. And people like that. They know that makes it easy on them if they can just plan on being away and they only have to deal with their pets and everything once, you know, put the pets in the kennel for the weekend, etc. So just just try to do your best to be honest and straightforward and say, okay, here's what we need to do to sell the house. And to the listing agent's credit, when I spoke to her about using these photos, she told me they have 13 offers on this house. And it's now under contract, you know, on Wednesday, and it went live on Monday, I believe. So it's a thing. Okay. Our market is kind of crazy right now. This is not the greatest picture. I couldn't find a good picture, but like unfinished projects. You know, see how real and serious are. There's some houses that you have been in that I've shown where you have 3 or 4 different unfinished projects throughout the house. And that turns off buyers. They don't like it. They sit there and wonder what it's going to look like when it's all done. So I absolutely encourage people, finish up your projects, wrap them up. What do you need? Do you need help? Do you need a handy person? Do you need someone to help you paint? Give them resources, give them options, help them figure it out so they can get their home in optimal condition for sale. And then the other surprise that you're going to get and talk, you know, people are going to talk to you about is disagreement on what your pricing recommendation is. And that's another reason why I like kind of coming in with a range, because when you come in with a range and you say, well, I'm going to be here to here, hopefully their number is somewhere in that range. If it's way out of the range, those are the ones where you need to honestly ask yourself, do I really want this business? Because not all deals are worth it. 100%. There were a couple deals that, you know, were like on closing day, I could not have been happier to have been done. Sometimes those people do not make it on my list of people that I call whenever we're having a client event or whatever. So not all deals are worth it. So keep that in mind. If somebody has a really ridiculously high price in mind, it will happen. Do your best to show them why you think their pricing or why you know, justify your pricing recommendation. Sorry, words got trapped there. Justify your pricing recommendation. Show them the comps that you're basing it off of. Tell them your logic and your reasoning. I like to pick one that I think is most similar. So when in preparing for the listing appointment, I've looked at all the comps. I've tried to remember what each one looks like. Sometimes I'll jot little notes. I print a copy of the comps for the client and I print a copy for myself. And so I make extra notes on my copy. You know, I'll do things like kitchen nicely updated, granite countertops. You know, I'll sort of make notes of key features that I think were driving that pricing recommendation, why it might be priced higher than that one, or, you know, in the case of one that's maybe a lower price one, why is it lower priced? Unfinished repairs, you know, etc. So that's kind of, I have that range, and if hopefully people fall in that range, great. If not, then I default to okay, well, we can list at your price, but can we make an agreement that if we don't get X number of showings in the first week, that maybe we talk about a price adjustment. And maybe especially if it's a really ridiculous price, I would say, I don't want you guys to sit on the market and take a black eye. So let's measure this very carefully. And you can go in and that's one place where RPR is a great resource. It can kind of show you average days on market for homes in that price range in that zip code. So that way you can use that information to say, okay, so on average, 3 2s in this zip code are averaging 2 days on market. If we get to 7 days on market and we still don't have an offer, we need to have a conversation about lowering the price. Do you agree to that? So that gives you a solid way to present what you know, show your expertise, show that you have done your homework, and hopefully they'll come around. Now, some clients don't want to come around, and if they don't, like I said, not all business is worth it. It's a true story. Okay, let me get back to the presentation. Okay, so we've kind of gone through, I'll show you how I would present. Would you guys like me to show you how I would present the listing packet, the KW style listing packet, or are you guys comfortable with that?
That'd be great.
Okay, all right, awesome. So I'll pull it up here. Oh, go back to command. Well, darn it, I had it pulled up. Hang on, it went away. So going back to designs. Okay, so this is the customizable listing presentation template. You guys get a whole class on doing these designs, right? So I don't need to actually go through the mechanics of changing things, do I?
Unknown caller.
Okay, somebody's not muted.
Sorry.
I'll take that as a, okay, so we'll just kind of go through it. So if I was presenting this to them, now I'll be honest, when I give people my folder, I say, here's some information I brought for you. I want to kind of go through this real quick. So this is when we do our sit down part. We've done our tour, now we're sitting down. I'd like to go through this folder with you. Obviously I don't hold it up awkwardly. So I open it up and I say, this is some information about our team and how we operate. I also have, it's gotten buried. Oh, I see why. This is one of our old ones. That's why it was in my office. So this is one of the versions of our little list. But we have a little infographic that I made. And it basically, it's home buying and selling made easy. And so just kind of guides people through the steps in the process of how it goes. So I kind of present that, and then I say, this is some more information about our team, and our satisfaction guarantee. And I talk through that. And then I say, these are our favorite lenders. You may or may not need a lender. Here are the people you could use. Here's the market analysis. And then here's the paperwork. And what I tell people about paperwork, and of course, again, this is contrary to what Ignite, the Ignite stuff rightfully encourages you to get signatures as quickly as possible. I don't do that. If somebody's truly ready to go and ready to roll, sure, we can start doing paperwork if they want to list quickly. But I always tell people, I don't like throwing paperwork in front of people, asking them to sign right away without having a chance to look at it. And this is and I feel like this increases people's comfort with the situation, that I'm not being pushy. I'm not pushing them for signatures. And so I'll say, this is all of the paperwork, or at least most of the paperwork that we're going to need to do to get your house listed. It's in here so you can have the opportunity to go through it and read it on your own time at your leisure, because I want people to have a chance to read things thoroughly before I ask them to sign them. Realistically, will they read it? Probably not. Most people don't. But by giving it to them and saying, I want you to have the opportunity to read this before I'm asking for signatures, for me is a trust exercise. And a lot of times I'm leaving the listing appointment, booking the photographer, and shooting photos, and getting everything set up either way. So that's what works for me on that. All right, so back to this listing presentation. The whole point of me saying that was, I don't necessarily read page by page, but by walking them through this, it helps you establish your value proposition, show them what you're able to do for them. So as we're going through here, obviously, so this is our business name. It's been customized for you guys. And we're going to talk about your custom marketing plan, your property, and the best strategy for presenting your home to the market to get it sold for top dollar. So you bring in a little bit of information about the house. So here's your home. This is some information that I gathered from public sources. Based on what I've seen, you're going to be around this average. Part of the reason I don't love this is because it has, you know, the last one sold for 310. Because there are a lot of reasons like why the next door house might sell for one price and the one house over sells for a lower price. So I don't like putting pricing information in there until I've seen the house. But they go in and say your house is 10% larger. So we're going to say on average it's this much, but your house is a little bit bigger than some of the houses in the neighborhood. You've got more square footage, so that will help support a higher price, etc. But keep in mind, if the house is bigger, but it looks like a bomb has gone off inside of it, square footage is not going to drive the price. Condition is going to drive the price. So then moving on to the next page, this is information can be pulled in through command. Similar information can be found in RPR if you're unable to pull the information out of command for whatever reason. And so you can fill this in. So looking at this, you'll say it's the client. So most homes in this neighborhood have these amenities. On average, here's the sales statistics for your neighborhood. Just kind of talk them through whatever's on the page and how it's relevant to their home. And then say, these are the comparable properties that I found that I think are probably your closest comparables. But I always put the caveat on when I'm presenting comparables. I always say, these are your closest comparables, but I haven't necessarily been inside these homes. And this is the first time I'm seeing your home. I think based on the listing information and what I know, I think your home is most similar to 1687 Barrington. And based off of that, then I think our price range is going to be here to here. And then I also tell them, before we settle on a final price, this market is very price sensitive and it's pricing can be very volatile. And even waiting a matter of a couple weeks can make a difference if a nearby comparable closes in that time frame and closes at a higher price than the list price, because we don't see the price that they closed at until until after closing, until it's reported. So I say we will run comps again probably 1 to 2 days before we go live. And then we may need to make a price adjustment based on those comps. If you want to sell quickly, you need to be the best house at your price point. And so if we look and there's a house similar to yours, but it's more upgraded and they're at the same price that we were thinking about listing at, we might consider listing at a slightly lower price to bring more value, to show that we are more valuable, and hopefully we'll get multiple offers and we might get back up to that original point. But we need to acknowledge that this house is slightly more upgraded than yours. And so our pricing should reflect that. Otherwise, we may end up sitting on the market longer than we want to. And then if we sit on the market too long, the price goes down, it doesn't go up. So that's kind of how I talk to people about value and the comps initially. And then I'll say, so now that I've seen the inside of your house, I'm going to go back to my desk. I'm going to look at comparables and come up with a specific pricing recommendation. But I'll also warn you, that price is only good for about 2 weeks. And after that, we'll have to run comps again, because that is how fast this market is changing and how fast this market is moving. And people appreciate that honesty and straightforwardness, and the fact that you're looking at it repeatedly, researching repeatedly. And in reality, you know, each one of these visits to MLS to run comps takes less than 5 minutes for the most part, unless it's a difficult comp, unless it's a really unusual property, like out in the middle of nowhere, etc. But for the vast majority of our listings, running those comps takes less than 5 minutes, and it may actually reveal some really important information. So I look at prices repeatedly before we list to make sure that we're coming in perfectly. So then we move on to the next page, a presentation. I want to let you know that your needs come first. I'm here to help you. I'm here to solve problems for you. I want to find out exactly what your goals are and make sure that I am meeting all of your goals in this transaction. And so then this walks them through the process. So you say, okay, so our first step is, and then you take them through the list on how everything's going to go. I always take the opportunity to point out if the buyer asks for repairs, when the buyer gets an inspection. Remember, every single home, whether it's brand new construction, whether it's 100 years old and has been meticulously cared for, every single home has little issues, little things that a buyer may want you to deal with. And we just need to be prepared for that. I usually tell people to plan on having 1 to 5,000, kind of depending on the size of the home and what I think is going to need to be done. Have some money set aside, so that way you're prepared to make a few repairs, because sure, we can refuse and fall through, but then the next buyer is just going to ask for the same things most likely. So it's better, and if there are things that are obvious that need to be addressed, try to get them addressed before you list, because it'll just make everybody's life easier. Okay, so you talk them through the process. Say, we're going to list, we're going to get professional photos, we'll get it live on the MLS. We're going to have, I like doing Saturday and Sunday open houses. I like going live on a Friday, Thursday or a Friday, doing evening open houses, doing weekend open houses. Just when you do an open house on day one of listing, just know that you will eat into some of your showings. Like, instead of scheduling a showing, people will just come to the open house, which is fine. That's great. You won't get as many leads because a lot of these people are going to have buyers, but you will get some leads from that open house. And it'll show that you're actively trying to sell their house. But you may get the sense like, oh, we haven't had that many people request showings. Well, they all came during the open house, because it was easy to jump in during the open house. You know how hard it can sometimes be to balance showings, schedule showings when you're trying to show a buyer houses, how hard it can be to work everything in. And it's really easy to punt to an open house. And so that's, begin attorney review. What is that? So in some states, that is not true here. And this is where one of those things you'd probably want to edit out if you were using this. In some states, I have a friend who actually just sold a house in New Jersey and bought a house in New York State, and they have way too many lawyers on the East Coast. So it's ridiculous. So basically, real estate agents in those states, they just show the house. Like, all they do is list it and show it. And then once it's but it's not even under contract. Once they have an accepted offer letter, it goes to an attorney. The buyer and the seller each have their own attorney. And then the two attorneys hash out the sales contract. So in the case of my friend, she wrote an offer on the house she wanted to buy, and her offer was accepted. But more offers kept coming in after her offer was accepted. Thankfully, there's really nothing that this is holding the seller to her purchase. What did they call it? It was, I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was some kind of a agreement, but there was really nothing legally binding holding the seller to her offer. So I was really stressed out for her. So it was like a week of her attorneys hashing it out before they were actually under contract, even though they had an accepted offer. And so then after attorneys, and so then the attorneys, they negotiate the repairs. They do all of, really honestly, the hard work. And it just kind of blows my mind. Anyway, she had 3 attorneys, and then the attorneys attend the closing too. She had 3 attorneys at her closing. Totally nuts. So that's what under attorney review is. So yeah, if there is something in here that does not apply to our state, then take it out. Or if there's something in there that you like, I don't launch a just listed marketing campaign, but you probably should. But let's say you were just bent on not doing that, take it out. If you don't do it, take it out. Be honest in all things. Always be honest and straightforward. Because even when you omit stuff that's not pleasant to say, it can come back to bite you. So just lay it out as gently as possible if there's something you got to say. Okay. So moving on, enough about East Coast real estate. All right. So next page in the listing presentation, My App, a seamless way to sell. Okay, I have not dealt with that. Okay, so it's showing the neighborhood guides. Yeah, you can have people use this and get into their app and play with it. I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest. And so then you can talk about the person's custom marketing plan. Talk about how you're going to put it on the MLS and then do Facebook ads or Craigslist ads, whatever it is that you do to market your listings. I'm actually right now taking a digital marketing course because as I told somebody, eventually we're actually going to have to try to sell houses. That's not the case right now for most homes, but eventually we're all going to have to get a lot better at actually marketing our listings. Right now it's for modestly priced listings. It's pretty easy to put it on the MLS and it's going to go. But keep, put that bug in your ear, like think about that. And the marketing also then obviously helps you attract, helps you lead gen. So that's why you do still market listings, even though it's really easy to sell houses right now on the MLS. Before I go any further, any questions or anything? Okay. Okay, so finding your buyer. So again, this is going through your marketing plan and how you're going to find the buyer. And that's probably part of the reason why I'm not using this presentation right now, because it feels really disingenuous to talk about how hard you're going to work to find their buyer when they know very, very well that there are tons of people looking for houses and it's pretty easy to sell a house. So I sell my value in other ways, not necessarily in the marketing end right now, but it's coming. So be prepared and educate yourself and be ready. Not that I don't think the market's going to crash. I just think eventually it will get a little bit harder to sell houses. So yeah, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom here because it's not going to crash. It's ridiculous. There are too many buyers right now. Okay. So again, this is just sort of saying, what I would do is be like, this just explains our marketing practices and our marketing campaigns. And then moving on to your media plan. Again, I would kind of address those handful of pages in a few sentences and flip through them pretty quickly. And just say, this is our marketing plan. This is what we do. Bah, bah, bah. And for me, the money is in talking about strategic pricing, making sure that we're meeting their needs, and providing the value in helping them solve the problems that they have. The problems, honestly, a lot of problems come with the market moving that fast. They've got to be ready to go once they list. There's no more listing and waiting around for a couple months and maybe it'll sell and maybe we'll move and maybe we won't. Maybe I'll start packing boxes. It's like, no, you should be packed when we list. Okay. And then open house strategy. So talk to them about what your ideal open house strategy would be. Make sure it's reflected in this brochure. Don't hand them something that is not what you're going to do, because then they're going to come to you and say, well, what about this? So I would, have a strategy in mind for that particular house, that particular property. We've had great success with evening open houses for houses that are in subdivisions that have good drivability, good visibility, that have, sort of like busier locations, and high demand subdivisions. So if you go live on a Thursday, you do a Thursday evening open house, that house will be bonkers going through. And it's almost too much. You better have more than one agent, honestly. It's one of the things I love about our team. Amanda Gold is my co-owner of Exceed Realty. We met in real estate school, and we share all of our transactions. We kind of come to philosophy that we work better together. We bounce our CMAs off of each other, especially if we've got a particularly difficult one. And I can't emphasize enough how wonderful it is to have a trusted partner in this business. And we have one buyer's agent. And we are actually looking to add buyer's agents, just a fast plug, if we've got internet leads, and we've got some great lead sources. So feel free to reach out if you're interested in working with our team. We're all about helping each other out, and just having a good time doing it. So talk to them about your open house strategy. Don't rule out evening open houses. They can be great in the right locations. They're terrible in rural locations. Don't do it in rural locations. If it's rural, playing on a Saturday, you can at least market, like go live on Thursday, market on Friday, and then open house on Saturday or Sunday. And decide what will be best, A, to get you leads, because they're hard to come by in this market, and B, decide what will be best to help get the house sold. And then obviously you need to take the seller's needs into consideration. What are they able to do? When is it convenient for them to be out of the house? Do they have some place to go with their dogs or their cat or whatever? Make sure you're taking their particular situation into consideration. So that way, when you're addressing this, you can say, now, since you always work at this time, maybe it would be better if we did this thing. So make sure that you're incorporating their needs into your presentation. So again, driving connection, driving the fact that they understand that you are really thinking about them and their needs, and you're interested in helping them. Okay. Then going through in the details. So talk about what kind of signage you're going to put out. If you're going to door knock, whether you're going to door knock, always use a professional photographer, always use a professional photographer, always use a professional photographer. I feel so embarrassed when I go on the MLS and I see horrible cell phone pictures. I just feel like it's a poor reflection on our entire profession when someone feels they can get away with it. And you know what? Yeah, they can get away with it in this market, unfortunately, but it's embarrassing. So please use a professional photographer at all times. Then the next one, so here's where you're talking about your value proposition, how many clients you've served, what your experience is, whatever your particular team or your personal value proposition is that you feel you're bringing to the table. Here's where you want to fill it in and say, hey, so these are why I feel like I'm a great agent or will be a good fit for you. And then again, going through more market statistics, our market center has great statistics in terms of us versus board statistics. It was presented at a meeting fair in the last couple months. I think it was maybe right before Christmas. They had, our average days on market is KW's average days on market is significantly lower than the board's days on market as a whole. So just remember that you can use our KW numbers to help bolster this as a newer agent until you have more of your own statistics. Even for our team, being an established team and doing a good number of transactions every year, I would still be inclined on some of these things to use KW statistics because it makes the numbers, sort of look bigger and fancier. Be honest. I would label it as team versus KW, etc. But use your brokerage as your strength. I had a client who was a sign call and he was like, oh yeah, Keller Williams. Yeah, you know, you got Keller Williams in Alaska. And I was like, yeah, we're all over the world. And he's like, yeah, you guys are pretty good. So, you know, it can help. And it gives you a backbone to stand on and say, I've got a lot of great agents behind me to help me out. Even though I'm not the most experienced agent, here's what I want to do for you. And here's what our brokerage will do for you because I have the best training. I have the best, whatever, however you want to phrase it. And again, similarly here, use the KW stuff. This is all fine. I probably wouldn't change this. Yeah, at this point, this is where I would probably like fluff it up and wrap it up and call it good. You've shared your value proposition. I might go to last but not least. Hey, I just wanted to point out we have some client reviews in here. If you want to read those reviews, would love to have you do it. If not, you know, maybe even if you're just having trouble sleeping, read those reviews and see what you think. I try not to take myself too seriously, honestly. And so then if you're using this promise pledge, use that and discuss that and how you feel about it personally. This is all, you know, ultimately, I would encourage you to go through this, pretend to list your fishbowl, you know, even if you're just talking to yourself alone in your house, like talk through it, do it. If you have a close friend or family member, be like, hey, can I come over and pretend, like, can we just play role play? Like, do it. I did it. I have a good friend. I have pretended to list her house a couple times. And she is my buyer. She actually is in the market for sort of the make me move house, but she's really just a good friend. And sometimes I'll be like, hey, there's a really cool house. You want to go see it? And she will. So find some people that can be kind of your go-to people that you can bounce stuff off of and say, hey, if I say it this way versus this way, what do you think? And again, that's another place where working in a team environment, I think, is wonderful. Having someone that you can bounce things off of and be like, okay, how does this sound to you? How does this sound to me? Well, here's why I said it this way. What do you guys think? It's just talk to people, look for help. You can call me, call Amanda. We're both real nice people. We don't bite. We're happy to chat with you at any time and kind of help you talk through a problem and just listen. Okay. Selling safely. Boy, this thing goes on. Okay. So, because it's been COVID updated. So I haven't seen the COVID updated version of this. You can talk to them about this. I would say the relevance is waning to a certain degree. People aren't super COVID conscious around here. I consider myself on the higher end of COVID conscious. But a lot of people don't want to hear it. So read the room. Maybe just one of those things that's in there that you don't talk about it. You know, at all times, just kind of use your best judgment and try to understand the person that you're talking to and try to understand their motivations and the best way to address them. And you don't want to run too long on these things because by the time you have walked through their house and to walk them through your packet or your paperwork, you're going to be going on an hour and they're not going to want to hang out with you that much longer unless they're just like one of those super chatty people that you can't ever get away from. So read your room, make sure that you understand where they are and what they're going to be and know what the market is and, you know, what's going on. If, you know, this were a few weeks ago and Omicron was still like exploding, it's getting better now, it's tapering off. But if it was still in a terrible place, you might say, hey, you know, here's the things we're going to look at right now because there's a lot of Omicron going around. And then the last one is the bottom line, a little note from you. Sorry, got a dry throat. A glass of water. Yeah, so a little happy, warm, fuzzy feely note. So yeah, I would say the last few chunks, talk about your promise, your service guarantee, but some of the stuff you're just gonna be like, just kind of flipping through. You can read that later if you want to. Okay. So let me go back to the slide deck. I am going to try and get us wrapped up here before too long. I know that we're running a little over an hour now, and I don't want to go on and make you guys just want to cry. So we're not going to do the role play, but I do encourage you to role play with other people, as I already mentioned. So any ahas, any questions, any comments? What have you guys got for us? Anybody?
Just a quick question.
I know a lot of those slides you said were probably a little longer than what you do. How many pages do you have in the document that you've prepared that you typically use on your listing? Because that was a lot. I think take way too much time probably for a lot.
Yeah, I honestly, here's how I go through it. I'm like, okay, so this is our packet that we give all of our sellers. This folder has some information about our business and how we run our business. We've already talked about a lot of this. I just want you to look through this if you want to. I do want to talk to you about our 100% satisfaction guarantee. And that's it. That's me going through my listing packet in terms of that packet. But then I move on and I talk about the rest of everything else that's in the folder. And then I talk about, all right, talk to me about your time frame. What do we need to do to get you there? So for me, the packet is just sort of a quick launch into the particulars. Like this is sort of like the stuff we have to get out of the way, like sort of the I don't know, boring work, if you will. And then I just focus on connecting with them and getting the information that I need. Does that make sense?
How long is your listing presentation typically when you meet with somebody? The most successful kind of time frame that you feel like people stay tuned in for? And is it more asking questions, or is it?
Yeah, I try to do way more listening than talking. And I think they even say that here in one of your little Ignite scripts. I plan for the pre-listing when you're talking to them. I'm going to listen to you a lot more than I'm going to talk, but it's true. You really should. You should try to get them talking. And of course, getting them talking comes with its own risks because you can end up with a talker. So I'm typically, my goal for a listing presentation is to be there for about an hour. Sometimes it runs over, sometimes it takes a little bit less. It's all kind of in where the person is, where their energy is, and what they want to accomplish and how many questions they have. So, we walk through the house, we go through the paperwork, and then I will give them a list of things that I recommend they do to make the house optimal for listing, including, I might even say, you could, if we list it as is, I would recommend this listing price. But if you do A, B, and C, and D, then I think we could probably go up to, 10,000 more than that, or 20,000 more than that. Just kind of obviously situation dependent. Because, it might be a simple matter of just freshening up some paint and making sure everything looks nice, and doing a deep clean. And then that would actually make their house look a lot more like the house that sold for 220 instead of 200. Any other questions? Any ahas or interesting, and you guys have any feedback for me? I'm happy to, I would love to be able to teach this again. Is there anything I could do to improve the experience for you guys?
I guess an aha, or sort of thinking about how you did this. Said one of the things, so giving the packet, and a lot of times people aren't really going to read it, but giving them the time to, I would say that I probably will take that opportunity to walk around the house and maybe give them 5 minutes to just look at it. Yeah. I mean, that's everyone kind of develops their own flow and their own style.
And if that works for you, yeah, absolutely, go for it. You know, they talk about all these scripts, and you know, in some of the places we're even supposed to be talking about, you know, going through some of the scripts in the Ignite book. They're all great, and some of them are worded very specifically for very specific reasons. And so if you use them for that reason, then make sure that you're using them the way they're intended to be used. Otherwise, there's no point. I hope that makes sense. But at the end of the day, a script is just something that you say a lot over and over again that makes sense. For example, like whenever I'm talking to someone trying to get inside of their house, I'll say, hey, you know, I've said it in this class already. Hey, I have 5 kids, 4 dogs, 2 cats, and 0 judgment. I don't care what your house looks like. You know, your house probably looks better than mine does on a good day. So I'm just here to help you figure out, I just want to help you figure out the best way to get positioned for market and help you get the most money for your house. And so yeah, I think people appreciate that. And I tell them not to stress over doing a deep clean. Now, then once I'm in there, I'm like, okay, here's what we got to do. But for the, you know, these scripts are just things that help you move a conversation along or move it in the direction that you want it to go. And you'll figure out what works for you, what sounds natural. You always want it to sound like a flow, a natural conversation. Any other questions? Oh, may we have your contact info, please? Yes, I will put my number and email in the chat. And can I don't know, am I allowed to chat? It's not letting me chat. It's not letting me type. I don't know what it is, but oh, there it is. Okay, sorry, it was off my screen. So yeah, I'll put my number
was
in.
asking for it because it says to everyone, so.
Oh, gotcha. There's my number if you want me. And my email is my first name at kw.com. So feel free to shoot me a message anytime. Email wise, I can sometimes get overly aggressive burning my inbox because if it doesn't stay empty, it stresses me out. So if you message me and you don't hear back from me, like within a couple days, feel free to message me again. It won't be bugging me. I am going out of town next week. And I'll be on my email checking it, but probably like once a day instead of like all the time. So if you try to reach me after Wednesday of next week, I will be in Mexico. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Any other questions? Okay, well, again, like, remember, do your Ignite stuff, 10 contacts a day, 10 conversations a day, rehearse your scripts, find a script buddy, practice your listing appointment with a friend, practice it with your dog. Seriously, like, list your goldfish bowl. I don't care. Like, talk to people. Because the more you do it in front of someone, the more natural it will feel, the easier it'll be when you're in front of somebody, and the more natural and relaxed you are, the more likely they are to give you your business. If you go in your ball of nerves, then they're going to be like, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. They're so scattered, etc. So, okay. If there are no other questions, we will call it a day.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you so much for listening, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Call me anytime.
Thank you.
Take care.